Hello, Nope Coach listeners. It's Suzanne Kohlberg. Welcome to episode 74. It's not a journey, it's an odyssey. And I am so delighted to be joined by the fabulous Fred. I've got a bit of alliteration happening there. And Fred, MindSpa Odyssey. Tell us about how come it's not a journey, it's an odyssey.
It's a good question, Suzanne. I was thinking about this fairly recently, and it popped into my mind this idea that comes up quite a lot of that you've got to enjoy the journey. Life is a journey. You've got to enjoy it. There are parts of our lives that are journeys. You've got to learn to enjoy them. And something about it didn't sit right for me. Didn't quite feel. There's something suspicious about this statement. And I think two things came up for me. One is some journeys are not to be enjoyed. Some journeys are straight up shit. And the best we can get out of them sometimes is the lesson of nope, never again.
What did I learn from this? What not to do?
yeah. Whatever I do not do this thing again. And the other is that actually, I think quite a lot of journeys are only like, if you think about, if someone says to you, well, you just got to learn to enjoy the journey. How? What's the actual process that you create that you follow to enjoy a journey? And I think, like, at least on looking back through chunks of my life, there are many journeys that I've only come to enjoy in retrospect. So I get to the end of it and I look back and think, okay, that was pretty ugly at the time, but now I'm wiser. Now I know not to do these things. Now I pulled the diamonds out of this and polished them so I can enjoy the quality of my life more, things like this. So I think this idea that we have, like, there's just one journey we're on and we've got to learn to enjoy it is perhaps not productive, not constructive in figuring out actually how to do the enjoyment of it. Whereas if we appreciate that life is an odyssey, our experience of the world is an odyssey, it is a long, meandering voyage made up of lots of changes in fortune and fate. When we get there, we can look back and appreciate the little journeys that make up the odyssey, and appreciate also that not every journey has to be great. What a weirdly, telling someone to enjoy the shitty experience. It doesn't make sense to me, anyways.
Well, you know what comes to mind when you say that? It's kind of like the rite of passage or the initiation. And it's like, yeah, it's easy for you to say enjoy the journey on the other side of it. I was thinking, when my kids were really young and wouldn't sleep or whatever, and everyone's like, you'll miss this when they're older. And I'm thinking, you fucking kidding me, right? And then very recently, my son just turned 8, and one of my friends sent me a picture of him when he was not quite 1. And I was like, yeah, for a split second, I missed it. But it's different because when you're in it, and there's a quote, Gretchen Rubin, I don't know if you've read anything of hers. She has this quote. It's like, the days are long, but the years are short. And whenever I'm having a tough moment, it's funny, at the time of recording this, for Fred, it's the morning. For me, it's the evening. It's like the night and day show. I was like, before we hit record, how are you going? Like, well, the day's not very far yet. And I'm like, well, I'm looking forward to this day being over. But yeah, when you encapsulate it as an odyssey, I don't know, it does, of mini journeys, take some of the pressure off, I think.
Yes. And taking the pressure off is, in fact, one of the things I find so important about looking at this personal development journey as many journeys, because I recognize in myself and in a bunch of clients and people that I met in and out in the world, that by the time a challenge, a problem is so pressing on us that we take action on it. There was a joke. Where did I hear this joke recently? It was it was from Tad, of course. The story about finding a guy sitting on his porch with a dog. And he's just chatting with the guy. The dog keeps rumbling away. When a man eventually asks the guy sitting on the porch, why does your dog keep rumbling? The guy says, well, he's sitting on a nail. Why doesn't he move? Well, it doesn't bother him that much. So, like, by the time we tend to take action on something, it is at the point of greatest challenge to us. It's immediate, it's big, it's scary, it feels like a lot, and the pressure's on to get it done with right now before we have to deal with it. Like an easy example, hydrophobia, a fear of water, and then having to take your child swimming the next day. You know, it's a tough call. Like, it's a really good time to start making some changes and to start outgrowing a phobia of water. But it makes it real challenging doing it at that particular point, when it's much easier to deal with it before. And that gives you an opportunity to get some feedback, figure out, is what I'm doing working? What results do I get back when I try this? You know, another example I've thought of recently, preparation of this. Until the age of about 19 or 20 or so, I was cripplingly shy, painfully shy. It hurt me inside to deal with social experiences. I hid behind long hair and rarely engaged with people, never with somebody of the opposite sex, you know. I don't know if they found attractive. And once I started discovering things like hypnotherapy and a bunch of other change modalities, I started to make a few changes, right? And in fact, outgrowing shyness took, I mean, it's hard to say because it's such like a multifaceted experience, right? But let's say it took me a few months. The actual process of becoming super happy and with engaging with people, going out and meeting with them, chatting with the person at the checkout, asking for the time, all these things, that took a longer period. And over the course of a year, maybe two, I had to learn all these skills that went with it. And each one of those came with some kind of stumbling blocks, some kind of fears, some kind of bit where I would have expected, given the marketing that had been sold to me of things like hypnotherapy and other rapid change technologies. Hey, do this one thing and you're fixed. Well, what actually happens a lot of the time is you kind of get rid of the stuff that's in the way. And then you reach this moment of, oh, what happens now? Previously, I used to get really scared and run away, but now I have to do something different. I wonder what I'm going to do.
Yes. And that part isn't ever sold or in the brochure. But I love that that example too of about when you do overcome something. There's a difference between, as you said, overcoming crippling shyness and doing something competently and then enjoying it. It's a whole other level again. So like my husband is a very good and actually very engaging public speaker. You would never know if you knew him personally because he's quite a hermit and very quiet and reserved. So when people see him outside of his business role, but that takes a lot from him and he doesn't enjoy it. Competent, yes. Enjoying it, no. But then you see other people who overcome something or go through their odyssey, and then you never would have known that the reason that they're really good at this thing is because in the past it was a stumbling block or a struggle. And I think that's for everybody to decide. Like hydrophobia was your example. Is there, I can tolerate this water enough so I can take my kids swimming, versus I'm now going to surf and, you know, I'm going to choose to engage in this and have it be a love of mine.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I think one of the hesitations that sometimes comes up with people for dealing with phobias, like, for example, spiders, is like, I don't want to like spiders.
Yeah, I just don't want to scream and run off the road if one happens across my windscreen.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the answer is, and it comes up again in things like smoking, drinking, like habits, addictions, however you want to describe it. Like, you don't ever have to, like, the purpose of a lot of this work is to give you back choice. You don't have to like spiders. You don't have to love swimming. Can you get rid of this overwhelming experience around it, the overwhelming fear and stuff, so that you can get the choice back, so that you can learn to swim and save your life, so that if a spider is near you, you can calmly move to the other side of the room and ask somebody else to deal with it. Or like I did in my first encounter with the huntsman, managed to trap it inside a narrow glass.
Oh, you're a spider saver. I don't know if we can be friends anymore. I'm like, no, they must not exist.
I don't know how much about, because I come from the UK, right? We don't get the big spiders like you do in Australia. But I don't know how much of my behavior was born of excitement, of fear, of surprise, because I caught it, trapped it in between a glass and a Vogue magazine, and showed it to my then partner, who'd just come out of the shower. Look what I've caught.
Oh my God. Your then partner, was that the end?
No, that was just a very happy middle. But yeah. So yeah, and then I went and took it outside and let it go. But yeah, like, do you have
This is the thing though, when you rescue them, see, I lived for a while with my sister and brother-in-law, and he was a spider rescuer. And I was like, they come back in. He's like, no, they go and find their friends. Anyway, one day there was one that had 7 legs. So he affectionately named it Stumpy, that he saved. And then it kept coming back in and he kept coming back out. Their leg grew back. Stumpy was getting more and more of a leg. And I was like, can't you just kill it already? But yeah, they come back in. They just, but then again, maybe we're in their space according to them. But this is the Odyssey part, I suppose, and the giving back of choice has been the big takeaway I've taken from this. Because do you choose to then, want to have a pet spider that you're going to name Stumpy and put in an aquarium or whatever you call it in your house, or take up synchronized swimming or something, or are you just going to be like, I'm going to tolerate this for the sake of others?
Yes. And part of that is part of this idea that it's many journeys as well, making up the Odyssey, many changes of fate. It may be that you start off with, if we take this experience of disliking water, having like an overwhelming fear of it, it may be that you do it to help your child learn to swim, so that you don't pass on this reaction to them, so they learn this, which is I don't know, like, it's not a constructive thing to do. We can behave more elegantly, I think. And later on, like 20 years down the line, you find that actually, because you've got worn limbs, your knees are a little bit knackered, then going into the pool and doing some aqua aerobics is the most effective way to look after yourself at this point. Maybe it's rehab from an injury.
Yes, that's such a good point. Yes.
Start a new journey there, and it's not something you would have seen earlier on.
I love it. So Fred, this is the kind of work that you do. So tell the listeners where they can find you, what's your specialties are, like, shameless plug away.
So you can find me at MindSpaOdyssey.com. And if that's tricky, ODYSSEY is the Odyssey.
I said to Fred, you have to spell Odyssey, because if anything like me, I'd be like, nah. Yeah, I'm outspelled by my now 8-year-old. So, MindSpaOdyssey.com. And what kind of things do you have for people if they're like, when they check it out, where would you recommend they head over to on your site?
The individual sessions for hypnotherapy on Zoom and in person. Zoom works, in fact, surprisingly well for hypnotherapy. I also run a membership. Every week we have a new live event where I guide people around a spa in their mind. A beautiful, tranquil place where we can explore some just like how the mind works and the trainings of and underpinnings of decent mental health without going through any real hardship. There's a gorgeous saying of, we tend not to rise to the occasion, but to fall back to the level of our training.
Oh, I like that.
So how do you know that you can relax as an act of will when you need it? Let's say you're going in for an interview, or let's say, for example, maybe you're coming on a podcast show with Suzanne, right? How do you get that measure of calm beforehand? And the answer is by training it in. And a lot of cognitive behavioral hypnotherapy at the moment shares this aspect with cognitive behavioral therapy of training, of examining these things. We've got rooms for relaxation and for joy and for all sorts of fun stuff. There's new ones available for free every week, and membership gives you access to the library and the Odyssey. Beautiful piece of what I'm offering. I think it's really important to look at personal development this way. It's a minimum of 3 months of coaching twice a month with support in between, and access to membership as well. And that's the piece that I love. Helping people who want to make lots of changes in their lives. I think we need more healthy, happy, well-adjusted people who are, to quote you, Suzanne, like boundaried AF, right?
I love it when someone quotes me to me. You can come back. Of course, right?
This fostering this strong sense of self. I think if you go and see somebody once and you get success, you might be tempted to think, hey, that person helped cure or fix me. And you're beholden to somebody else to start getting these changes in our lives. And if you can take your time over it and start to get 3 or 4 changes, and you start to realize, holy shit, like this is, I'm doing this. It's me. And now I've got a few ways of like, and now I've got some experience of affecting change in my life, having some more control, taking some more responsibility, but also the sense of accomplishment and sense of self that comes with it. Then we're on to a real winner. We need more people like this.
I love it. And it brings back your choice and agency, which you spoke about earlier for the individual. Like, yeah, I was the problem, but I'm also the solution. And I'm not, reliant on somebody else. I can do these things myself. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you
It's
so
a
much for
classic
joining
thing.
me, Fred. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.
Thanks.